June 30th, 2020, 12:37 p.m. Central Time. The moment Shane Dawson's career ended. He hasn't made a single video, post, or even tweet since then. Now, I'm not saying that he'll never work again, or he won't keep making money, or even that his views are going to go down. I'm saying that his career as Shane Dawson, the persona of Shane Dawson, is over, and all because of what he did that day. Out of nowhere, Shane Dawson starts a live stream. Now, nobody knew what we were about to see on this live stream. We knew it was going to be bad, just not this bad.
I'm losing my mind. This is so This is... Oh my God.
Shane has upped the ante. The amount of time that I spent watching Shane's film, I will never get back.
He just shoved a penis cookie into a kid's mouth.
He's firing at will. And at children.
Hi, and welcome back to me talking about whatever I want. Today I want to talk about Shane Dawson because as you may have noticed, there's kind of a lot going on. But first I want to talk about me. If you're a longtime subscriber, you may have noticed that my channel is somewhat bigger than it was before. Like somewhat a lot bigger. My last video that I posted 2.5 weeks ago blew up, and I've gained more new subscribers in the past 2.5 weeks than I gained in my first 1.5 years on YouTube. I am now closer to 1 million subscribers than I am to 0. And honestly, thanks to you guys, I just feel like my dreams are coming true. And to be quite frank, it is going to my head. It is what I deserve. I snapped on my last video. That last video, of course, was the first in this 3-part series about the 3 most high-profile people in this beauty community dumpster fire that's going on, and that one was about Jeffree Star, who has since released a video in which he apologizes and takes full responsibility for his actions. Look, I already gave my thoughts about Jeffree's apology over on my Twitter, where I give my thoughts on basically everything, but let me just ask you this. Why is Jeffree Star voguing in the thumbnail of every single apology video?
Oh, I love karma.
I have to laugh. Otherwise, I'd probably cry. Anyway, this video is about Shane Dawson, and then the third and final video will be about Tati Westbrook. Anyway, that's enough about me for now. Let's talk about this video. I put everything into it. I honestly feel like Alexander Hamilton while creating this.
Why do you
Edit.
like you're running out of time?
Edit.
Day and night like you're running out of time.
The reason it's almost as long as a feature film is because it's actually in 3 parts. In part 1, I want to look at Shane Dawson in the present. What is going on with Shane right now? He's lost 1.4 million subscribers, almost 1 million Instagram followers, and he's deleted over 1 billion views worth of videos from his channel. If the comment section in his last apology video is anything to go by, clearly something pretty big went down. Then in part 2, we're going to look at Shane Dawson in the past. I have to give a huge content warning for this entire video, but especially part 2. I really need you to understand how severe some of the things are in this video. This is not my normal YouTube video. I turned the advertisements off on this video, not making any money from it because I feel uncomfortable profiting off of this stuff. We are going to be talking at length about pedophilia, bestiality, and racism. So I didn't want to have to like censor myself every time I would say that because I feel like the video would lose some of its meaning. I think you're going to see what I mean later on. Anyway, in the final part of the video, part 3, I'm going to show you how Shane Dawson from the past and Shane Dawson from the present are 2 different people. Not because he's changed or grown as he'd have you believe, but because the Shane Dawson that we're seeing today is a mask. And lately, that mask has been slipping. But without further ado, allow me to present the exact moment Shane Dawson's career ended. So part 1 will be our look at Shane Dawson in the present. In this section, we're going to look at the final 10 days before his career-ending livestream, and then why that livestream was so disastrous. Now, for those of you who don't know, Shane Dawson is one of the most popular YouTubers in the world, just known universally for being kind and genuine, and he does his best to live up to that image. Here's some fast facts you should know about Shane Dawson. He has over 20 million subscribers, he gets over 10 million views per video, and he likes to help people because he's an empath.
So I've learned I'm an empath, right? We were talking about that.
Did I mention he likes to help people?
Why do I want to get so deep with people and talk to people and like try to help them?
Like I said, it's because he's an empath.
He shared with me that he was an empath and that he could feel all of my pain.
Don't ever forget that he helps people because he's empathic.
And I want to help them and all of that.
Because you're empathic.
So an empath, I've heard that before.
After a certain point, it literally just starts sounding like a joke.
I want to help people, but I don't want to become the guy who's helping everyone. Everybody's like, oh God, Shane thinks you can help everyone. I don't want to become that, but it is hard because I do always want to help people.
Are you done? Are you done?
Shane Dawson is the kind of person who spends an awful lot of time telling you how kind of a person he is. And 95% of the people like that I've met, I just immediately recognize them to be terrible people right off the bat. And the other 5% I wound up finding out later. Shane Dawson fits in that 5%. See, for the most part, his reputation as YouTube's nicest person in the history of the entire world, I guess, is largely intact. If you ask his 20 million subscribers, I'm sure most of them will tell you that they believe they're supporting a genuinely good person. But this whole time, there have been people on the sidelines like me who truly believe that Shane Dawson has just tricked all of these people with basic manipulation tactics.
Me, it's Keisha, Amanda, Hannah from Spanky Glow, like D'Angelo Wallace, Angelica. We have all been going on and on and on about how problematic Shane Dawson is.
But regardless of this, Shane has always really nailed the balancing act of dealing with millions upon millions of adoring fans and balancing that with a very vocal minority who think there's some pretty horrifying things going on with Shane Dawson that nobody seems to be frank about. But every now and then that balance flips.
My friend was like, oh, people like you right now. And I'm like, well, it comes in waves. Like every 2 years people hate me. And I said, and it's ticking, like 2 years is coming. So like by tomorrow, something bad's going to happen.
Over the last like 7 years, I've once in a while, once a year, I get kind of bombarded on Twitter with, Shane's racist, and they'll post screen caps and blog posts and all these things, and I ignore it.
As you can see, Shane Dawson, for the last 10 years, has been in a time loop where he falls in and out of public favor for things like racism and other things that we're going to be getting into later. But every single time he gets in trouble, he PR teams his way out of it pretty impressively. Every single time, except for this last time. And that's because relying on your default strategy of claiming everything bad you ever did was a joke and you didn't know it was bad and you're actually a good person doesn't really hold up when you're letting people watch you do bad things in real time. So this live stream that Shane did marked the end of his series of unfortunate PR fiascos, and on its own, it's a mildly entertaining thing. Somebody did something weird online, I have strong opinions about that, which I share with you, and then the whole comment section talks about how good I look. Pretty standard stuff for my YouTube channel. But the issue is this situation is kind of deeper than that. It's kind of darker than that. From a glance, this whole live stream thing just seems like an isolated incident, but there is an undercurrent. Shane's losing so many followers because his nice guy persona was starting to unravel at the seams, and I want to look at exactly when that started. So to do that, we're gonna have to go back in time. About 10 days before the live stream incident. So 10 days before the whole incident, Shane Dawson posted a statement to Twitter called "My final thoughts on the beauty community." And as you can see, it is kind of long. You can pause it if you want to read it, but I'll cover the important bits. It starts by saying, "Welcome to the circus," which I thought was not only extremely cringy, but kind of fitting because there's a lot going on and everybody is far too loud. The good news is, if you watch my Jeffree Star video, then you already have the context for what this letter was about. The first thing the letter covers is Shane Dawson's makeup collaboration with Jeffree Star is wildly successful. And the second thing the letter covers is Tati Westbrook's video from last year called Bye Sister, aka a 40-minute hit piece on fellow beauty YouTuber James Charles. Now, because that Bye Sister video wound up working so conveniently in Jeffree Star's favor, and by extension Shane, since they were working together on makeup, people actually started speculating that maybe Jeffree and Shane had something to do with it. This was further corroborated by the fact that, according to James Charles, he said that Jeffree texted him informing him that Shane Dawson was one of the people who contributed to the bad blood in the first place. So in this Twitter statement that he posted 10 days before the incident, he basically just addresses two birds with one stone. He says that he's leaving the beauty community because it's too toxic, even though he's somehow sticking with Jeffree Star, who is more toxic than every other beauty influencer combined. And this part of the statement really did not sit well with people because, let's be honest, how can you leave a community you were never part of? The only reason Shane Dawson wasn't anywhere near a makeup palette was so he could make money off of the people in that community. And then once the heat got too hot, he just dips and calls them toxic on the way out. Then Shane tries to squash the rumors that he worked with Jeffree Star and Tati on the Bye Sister video to take James Charles down. He claims that he didn't have anything to do with the video, but insists that James Charles still deserved it because he was young, egocentric, and power hungry. It literally sounds like something from like a young adult fiction novel, but those are his words: young, egocentric, and power hungry, and that he needed to be served a slice of humble pie the size of the Empire State Building. Now, this is ridiculous for multiple reasons, chief of which being James Charles was 19 years old at the time, and everybody serving the humble pie was in their 30s. Also, the fact that Tati's video was mostly a lie in the first place. But what people really started thinking about was Shane Dawson is saying that James Charles needed this big humbling experience. But as you know, probably from watching my older videos, Shane was far worse than James Charles was, even when he was older than him. So he started getting backlash, obviously, because nobody likes a hypocrite, but he actually specified that he didn't mean James deserved any hate, but then doubled down on the fact that James needed to be humbled. So when people inevitably called him out, he just deleted all of it, all of the posts, and claimed that he's too sensitive for Twitter. But by that point, it was too late. So because he was so critical to James Charles in his attempt to kind of shine a spotlight over there, Makeup Twitter kind of shined the spotlight right back on Shane's face, and they started looking at his old content. And oh my gosh, the amount of videos that started coming out. If James Charles needed a humble pie slice, Shane Dawson needed a humble bakery. We're talking about blackface with like the slurs.
Oh, nigga, bitch, monkey woman, you're the best!
And as trashy as those racism clips are, a lot of people had already seen them. But what was new was a clip circulating that people found in Shane's old content in which he was interacting very inappropriately with a child. It's this whole video where Shane and his girlfriend at the time, Lisa Schwartz, start talking to Shane's 12-year-old cousin Lucy about sex and giving her a bunch of creepy questions, like if she's got her period. It's gross, but we'll get to that later. I've seen some people on the internet apologize for some crazy things, but never asking a 12-year-old to reenact sexual intercourse with a peep. So that was the first. Clip after clip after clip was coming up because people were mad at Shane Dawson, and that's what people do when they're mad. But in this case, it wasn't like old tweets where he was saying bad things. It was legitimately concerning things like this. So now Shane Dawson was in a bit of a pickle. People wanted answers for what he said about James Charles, so that's current controversy. People wanted answers for what he was doing with his cousin 10 years ago. That's old controversy, which in my opinion shouldn't even be called controversy. That's just creepy behavior from an adult towards an underage girl. But okay, so long story short, Shane was stuck between a rock and a hard place that he literally created because he didn't have to release the statement on James Charles in the first place. So after like 6 days of all these clips getting dragged up, Shane's response came in the form of what he knows best, an apology video. So we're now 4 days before the disastrous live stream, and Shane has just uploaded his video called Taking Accountability. In this video, he clears up not just his Twitter statements, but also the really weird cousin clip that was circulating, and he knocks out the blackface while he was there too. Okay, look, just how do you get in this many controversies at one time? I totally understand being in like a blackface controversy. I don't understand that, I'm not racist, but I can see how you could be in the blackface controversy. But then how are you also in like weird behaviors with minors controversy at the same time? Honestly, pick a struggle. Anyway, Shane apologizes. He said that he's sorry for normalizing racial slurs, which it's about time, but it's a little late. But hey,
Blackface was something that I did a lot. Like, I did it a lot on my channel, and there's no excuse for it. There's literally no excuse. So I'm so sorry. I'm sorry that I added to the normalization of blackface or the normalization of saying the N-word.
After the racism apology, he addresses the clip with his cousin, in a really weird way.
I saw a vlog clip of me and my cousin who was, I don't know, probably 12 or 13 at the time. And we were, I was doing the birds and the bees talk. Dumb, gross shit. And I remember a few years ago, I reached out to her mom, my aunt, and I was like, I'm so sorry. Oh my God, I can't believe I did this. Like, this is insane. I can't believe I talked to, my cousin like that. And, she was like, oh my God, we know. It's okay. It was funny. Like, we all thought it was funny. Like, that's just how our family is. So I kind of took that as like, okay, well, then I don't need to apologize for it. But I do.
Our family is just like that has to be the worst explanation for creepy behavior around a kid I've ever. And then lastly in this video, Shane addresses his statements about James Charles.
So the part of the Twitter note that I regret more than anything in my life was the part where I said that James deserved a slice of humble pie the size of the Empire State Building. I only want to talk about this situation with love because I feel like that note had so much anger in it. It was just not good. And so I'm going to come at this situation by first apologizing. I'm sorry, James.
And that was basically Shane's apology. There's a lot more in there because it was like 20 minutes long, but you can watch the full thing for yourself if you want. I just picked the parts that are going to come up again later down the road. But yeah, with like the triple apology video, first of its kind, it was enough. or at least it would have been had he waited a little bit longer. See, when Shane Dawson gets called on to apologize for things, he always hyper focuses on like the one thing that he did and never the root issue. So he was so hyper focused on the clip with his cousin and just general statements about the weird jokes he used to make about children that he didn't realize downplaying it would turn out to be a lie, because somebody named Miss Hemlock on Twitter made a thread where they just compiled all kinds of video evidence of Shane Dawson's behavior around children back before he was in his current YouTube era, and it is disturbing. Now, this thread came out 13 hours before Shane Dawson's apology came out, meaning he didn't have time to see it and craft his narrative around it. So he wound up shooting himself in the foot because he acted like it was just like a weird one thing with his cousin and the other things were just offhanded jokes. But then this thread is full of him interacting with real children that are not in his household. That's a gross violation of everything, basically. So I guess after Shane Dawson's apology video went up, he realized that more and more of these clips are coming out. So he privated 1.1 billion views worth of videos from his channel. It was like a last ditch effort to stop people from finding this old content, but he was far too late. The more views taking accountability got, the more retweets and eyes were on this thread where everyone could see how Shane was really interacting with these kids. But it kind of reached its peak when this video came out of Shane and Willow Smith on a poster. You just have to watch the video. And again, I'm warning you, it's very upsetting.
Oh, Willow. Oh, I'll whip your hair back and forth. Oh.
So as uncomfortable as you felt watching that, imagine how Willow Smith's mom felt watching that. And it turns out we don't have to imagine, because she saw the clip and she spoke up. So now we're only 3 days before the live stream meltdown, and Will Smith's family has just dragged Shane Dawson on Twitter for sexualizing children. Jaden tweeted out in all caps, "Shane Dawson, I am disgusted by you. You sexualizing an 11-year-old girl who happens to be my sister is the furthest thing from funny and not okay in the slightest bit." Shortly thereafter, the mother, Jada Pinkett Smith, tweeted out to Shane Dawson, "I'm done with the excuses." So less than 24 hours after his apology video where he thought he was in the clear, some of the biggest celebrities in the world just said, "No, we don't accept your apology or your excuses." By this point, so many people, in the effort to archive Shane's content, had sent so many clips, and people were making even more threads, by far the worst of which was this thread made by Kippelodeon, which documented this show called Hey Millie, which we're going to get into later. But long story short, the show was about a fictional 8-year-old puppet girl character. They wrote this character to be constantly sexually abused and unaware of sexual innuendos that she was putting out. That was the entire concept of the show. And because Jaden and Jada Pinkett Smith are such high-profile celebrities, them calling out Shane Dawson made him wind up in the news. Just 3 days before this Instagram live stream, Shane wasn't chilling on his couch. He was literally in the news for sexualizing a child that happened to be a celebrity. He had just deleted 1.1 billion views from his own channel in order to stop people from finding clips that they had found so many of, they were making threads of them on Twitter. He had posted a Twitter statement, that didn't work, he had to delete it. He posted an apology video, that didn't work because Jada Smith basically shot it down. I think for the first time in his career, Shane Dawson was out of options. And then Tati Westbrook posted her video, and that's basically when he lost it. So 37 minutes before the live stream, Shane was in the hot seat, and Tati Westbrook posts a video called Breaking My Silence. In this 40-minute video that she allegedly created with her legal team, Tati alleges that Shane and Jeffree did manipulate her, and they had a huge part in Bi-Sister happening because they were jealous of James Charles. She makes really disturbing claims about Shane Dawson too, claiming that she thought making the Bi-Sister video might cause James to be suicidal, but Shane Dawson had assured her that he's too narcissistic to hurt himself. It was really, really disturbing stuff. And, you know, hindsight's 2020. I feel like Shane Dawson should have waited half a second and collected his thoughts. But nope, he went live on Instagram 37 minutes after it came out, meaning he didn't even finish watching it. And then this is the behavior he exhibited in response to that.
This is insane. This is insane. This woman is a oh my God.
It is not pretty. He shouts.
How is it that so many editorial outlets knew that something was coming before I had...
Because you message drama channels. Oh my God.
Oh my god.
He curses her out.
She is a fucking... I can't. I don't want to say mean things about people.
It's kind of hilarious initially, just seeing the contrast of him trying to keep up his nice guy persona while pacing around his mansion and literally shouting at one of his former friends. But it stops being funny altogether when he starts calling her manipulative for bringing up her sexual abuse and then mocks her and proceeds to bring up his instead.
As a victim of abuse myself,
Oh my god.
terrified
You are so manipulative.
to think of facing public.
You're fake crying. You are fake crying. You are fake crying. That is not real. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god.
It was not my
Oh my god.
place.
I was molested. I have been. Oh my gosh.
It was pretty bad. And just as suddenly as it started, the live stream ended because Shane's fiance tells him to stop streaming.
That is not.
And I made no mention of it in my video.
Oh my god.
Get off.
The night before posting my video, Bye Sister,
Oh my god.
I texted Shane sharing my concerns for James Charles, that he was out of the country on the high floor of a hotel and I was afraid for him.
The whole ordeal was less than 3 minutes long, but the damage had been done. At its peak, almost 250,000 people watched Shane in real time run around and discredit sexual abuse victims. And then people started reposting it. Between Twitter and YouTube, it's racked up millions of views, meaning millions of people have seen Shane Dawson's mask slip. And he hasn't said anything since. No apologies, no tweets, not even like a like. And that is how Shane Dawson wound up ending his career in 3 minutes or less. Now in Act 2, we're going to look at the real circus. It's not the beauty community or any of the current drama, but rather all of the things Shane Dawson has somehow managed to get away with. So we've seen Shane Dawson in the present. It's not pretty, he's not doing great right now. I'm sure he'll be fine. But now we're going to take a look at Shane Dawson in the past. We're going to get into what was actually in Shane Dawson's old content and why people are afraid to call it what it is, which is pedophilia, bestiality, and minstrel shows. Starting with the blackface. Shane Dawson said it best himself. Blackface was something that he did a lot. Like, he did it a lot on his channel. I saw someone tweet that Shane Dawson has done more blackface than actual makeup looks. Now, I found that pretty hilarious, but then I realized that is not an exaggeration. That is a factually correct statement. I know this really might surprise some people who think that there's no nuance to people who criticize things like this, but I do understand there is a difference between wearing blackface to dehumanize black people and wearing it because you thought it was funny, because your sense of humor is dumb or something. I don't know. And you can look throughout Shane Dawson's content yourself and see that he was clearly doing the former. Now, a lot of times when you bring up blackface or any of this stuff, people say it was a different time. And you know what? They're not necessarily wrong, but here's how I've been looking at it recently. Shane Dawson got his start in like the mid 2000s. And are there other examples of people doing blackface in the mid 2000s for comedic purposes? Yes. Does that mean it was normal in 2008 to literally don blackface? Absolutely not. 2008 wasn't some mythical racism world where people just wore blackface and it was funny. This was a thing that specific creators were doing and getting away with for God knows why. But even at that, Shane Dawson's content is not just blackface, it's literal minstrelsy. Here's why I say that. Jimmy Kimmel has done blackface. Jimmy Fallon has done blackface. Robert Downey Jr. has done blackface. The Office, 30 Rock, Community. But guess what? What they were doing was actually completely different than what Shane Dawson was doing. Now, just so we're clear, I don't condone any of it. Maybe that's just because I know how to tell a good joke without painting my face, that's just me. But in all of the shows I named, black people were not the target of the joke. Again, blackface is still racist, and it's not racist just because you weren't trying to be racist. But if you look at the context of each of those specific cases I just brought up, they were not wearing blackface so that they could make black people look bad. It was more so to reflect on the characters and how stupid they were for wearing blackface in the mid-2000s. Shane Dawson, on the other hand, every time he donned blackface, it was specifically to make black people look bad. It simply was not the same content that people compare it to when they say this was a thing at the time. The reason I keep saying it's like minstrel shows is because, for those of you who might not know, basically minstrel shows were this weird form of entertainment pioneered in America where white actors would paint their faces black, sometimes like just actually the color black, and they would give themselves exaggerated features, and then they would start parodying black people. And by parodying black people, I mean parodying stereotypes of black people, because behavioral traits are not determined by race, but hey, that's just a theory, an anti-racism theory. They would act stupid, they would act lazy, they would act greedy, you know, all the negative stereotypes, which are actually still associated with black people today, which should tell you something about how this stuff is actually harmful. That is the purpose of minstrelsy. And even I, as a black person who considers blackface to be offensive, I can say that that is not what was happening. That's not what Jimmy Kimmel was doing. That's not what Jimmy Fallon was doing. That's not what Robert Downey Jr. was doing. But that is absolutely what Shane Dawson was doing. The whole minstrel show thing is an idea rooted in white supremacy. And that's absolutely what Shane Dawson was tapping into for his humor style. He had a running theme across his channel that black people were less than, and they were always the butt of the joke, and they were always ignorant.
Nastiest cum face thing ever.
Almost as nasty as the black girl's hair on the back of the box. Shauna, I really want her to have a channel, and she has a lot of fans, and like, she doesn't know what she's doing, she doesn't know how to make a video, she's black, she doesn't even know how to, she just slaps her keyboard. So they want to...
So much so to where he had the black people in his skits act ignorant and dumb too.
You'll always be my son. You're my family. And these are my niggas. What?
Oh no.
What?
So this idea, or this narrative that Shane pushes, that he's built his career off of edgy humor, not racism, absolutely does not hold up. I'll show you edgy humor right now. Edgy humor is this scene in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia in which what's-her-face puts on black or brown face or whatever you want to call it, and then starts trying to explain POC issues to a group of actual POC.
Yeah. What are you doing?
Just go with it. Let me ask you something. Why we got to be the trash men and the maids and the gardeners? Why we got to live next to the trash dumps and the ghettos? We deserve better. When was the last time a white lady pick up after you when you threw your orange soda and your grape sodas on the ground?
You're losing them.
Do I personally think it's funny? In concept, yes. In execution, no. It's very cringy. But this, on the other hand, is something Shane Dawson made in a similar time period, is literally just blackface.
And that ghetto tacky ass weave she got from the corner store. And that face, ugh, she got a face of a beast.
Look how similarly Shane puts himself up compared to these images of actual minstrel shows. Basically, Shane Dawson pioneered the art of minstrelsy in YouTube. He revived it because why didn't we need that? So in like the mid 2000s, early 2010s, Shane Dawson's content had already become a pioneer of anti-blackness. And by the way, I'm only speaking about my experience as a black person. I've read tons of people in other groups explain that he was literally doing the same thing there too, but I can only speak from what I know. So that's what I had to say about the blackface, or as I'm just going to call it, the minstrel show that Shane Dawson was running on YouTube for children. Now we have to have a conversation about the bestiality. Now I know a lot of people get really antsy when I even imply that bestiality happens, but it happens. Now Shane, like all the problems that he runs into, namely racism, bestiality, and pedophilia, he has quite a history with it. He repeatedly gets in trouble for the same things every single year. In this case, the peak of it was when a podcast clip from, I want to say 2015-ish, started circulating, in which he talked about sexually molesting his cat. Now, in his infamous "I did not do anything to my cat" tweet that wound up becoming a meme, Shane alleges that this was a joke. And the reason I'm saying he alleges that it was a joke is because there's a bit of gaslighting going on there. I found the original episode that cat thing is from, and I listened to it. At no point does Shane Dawson say, "Hey, this is a joke."
One time, I laid my cat down on her back.
Are you gonna get arrested for this?
I don't know. No.
Think about it.
I don't think so.
Okay, go ahead.
I didn't penetrate. I laid the cat down on her back, and then I moved her little chicken legs, like, you know, spread open or whatever. And I was like, if I just like hump, but like on her tummy, like that's not weird, like whatever. And then I humped it, and it kept going, and I came all over the cat.
No, you did not.
It was like my first sexual experience.
No
I was also
way.
like 19, so it's like, you know.
Wait a minute.
Wait a second. Did you just say you came on a cat?
Guys, I think I have to put money in the meter.
Yeah, right?
But you know, who likes cats? I never did anything like that. Well, I never did anything crazy like that.
Maybe that's why.
So people listening to that believed it. And now, years later, he tried to say, well, y'all are ridiculous for believing that. Why would you, how dare you believe me? Also, I demand that you believe me in this moment when I'm telling you that what I said then wasn't true. It's classic manipulation. Now, do I think Shane Dawson, you know, did that to his cat? It doesn't matter because he is on camera doing so many other weird things to animals and nobody talks about it. First of all, he would post pictures of his pets, his own pets, to his Instagram with poses implying that they were sexy or that he was going to have sex with them. And he would do this a lot. There were a lot of Instagram posts of him implying that he wants to or just finished having sexual relations with his pets. So when you start considering that, with the fact that everyone believed him when he said he did that to his cat, it starts seeming really ridiculous how he managed to trick us all into thinking we were crazy for believing it in the first place. Of course, it could still be argued that they're just captions about wanting to have sex with your dog, but he would also pose with them suggestively. He would just do really creepy stuff. He was literally trying his hardest to give us the vibe that he has sex with his pets.
All right, you guys, I'm going to go. Muffins is already asleep over there, so I'm going to go join her. And we're going to have a wild cat night.
Are you ready to dance? Okay, really quick, I just need to point it out. Oh no, he's obviously ready to have sex with me. Dirty little dog.
But worst of all are the videos of him just actually sexually harassing animals. And I have to give you the biggest possible trigger warning I could ever give. This is like not safe for life. Honestly, just don't watch this. I'm just putting it in here so that you guys know that I'm not making stuff up.
Can I make out? Want us to think about having sex with animals at a young age? Because that fucked me up. Oh yeah, daddy likes. I'm sorry. I blamed it.
Oh my god. He does this every time.
I have never seen a human being with such a large platform that has video evidence of them treating animals this way. And I don't understand. I legitimately don't understand how he's gotten that far. I think a huge part of it is kind of like with the minstrel show stuff. People don't want to talk about it. I'm going to be fully honest. I didn't want to talk about that just now. That's gross. That's gross that I had to edit it. That's gross that more people are now aware of this. But I feel like I didn't do my due diligence before because I threw a couple of clips in there similar to this in my last video and people kind of glazed over it. I really need you to understand what I'm saying here. Shane Dawson sexually harasses animals. That's not allegedly. I really can't get in trouble for describing what I am showing on screen. So this idea that it's ridiculous that we believe him for allegedly doing things to his cat. He's trying to distract you from the fact that these clips exist. This is a real human being who does this to animals and he still has a platform. Also, if you're wondering if I'm advocating for deplatforming, no. Not until we get to the children's stuff. Let me just get one thing out of the way, since we're being so frank in this video. I am not calling Shane Dawson a child rapist. I feel like so many people were like, you can't call him a pedophile, you can't do that, okay? Yeah, he's not a great guy, but you're gonna ruin his life if you call him that. No, I'm not calling him a child rapist, because do I think he's raped a child? No, and if I did, I would not be making a video about this. But you don't have to rape a child to be a pedophile. You just have to display sexual attraction to children or use children in sexual situations. So again, Shane Dawson is not a child rapist, but he is absolutely sexually exploiting children for his profit in his videos. Okay, before we get into that, we could just talk about the jokes he made. He would make frequent remarks that he was just going to rape children. He would joke that he is a pedophile. He would just say that point blank. He would joke that he's not a pedophile. He would make jokes about collecting child pornography.
Have nightmares? What are they about? Mine are always about somebody breaking into my house and taking my computer. But then it always scares me because I'm like, if somebody stole my computer, you know how much blackmail they would have on me? I mean, the fact that I haven't been on To Catch a Predator yet is like a miracle.
All right, now it's time to see some hot, sexy bitches wearing my Hot Topic shirts. Damn. Oh, if Justine wasn't watching, I would rape all of you.
YouTube one day and I saw one of his videos. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool.
I'm gonna fuck him. I'm gonna fuck her. Then I'm gonna fuck him. Then I'm gonna make him react to it.
All of this, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable behavior, but none of it necessarily involves children. They're just all things that a sick individual could say and it wouldn't really affect anybody. However, the way he used children in his videos should never be excused. And I honestly cannot sit here and let people normalize this and say that this was a normal thing that was happening. Just watch this.
It's you. Where'd you get your pants at? Look, it's like little Shanae. H&M? Girl, ooh, that sounds dirty. That sounds rough. H&M.
Good job, Lucy. But next time, shake your titties more. And you, take off the jacket and show more.
And Lucy, I checked my statistics and I have a lot of child molesters watching, so can you please eat a cocktail weenie? Do it slow. Oh.
Oh, I like that chocolate, that weenie.
Okay, give her a lap dance.
Oh my god! Do it.
I blow everybody a kiss like you're a mermaid. That was the worst kiss I've ever seen. That was terrible. I would never have sex with you. Titties. Oh, man. Man, 12-year-old. Oh, chocolate's getting in them. I didn't know 12-year-olds develop that fast. Wait, let chocolate lick your boobs. Look at... Wow.
On multiple occasions, he would have them simulate sexual actions, even going on to joke that it was for the benefit of the child molesters that were watching him. There are just so many of these clips, and it's not okay. The way he would make these children act in these videos is also deplorable. That's something that Shane Dawson has not taken responsibility for. The most he said is that he used to make bad jokes about kids and have them do weird things in skits, and he regrets it. But until Shane Dawson can actually admit to doing the behavior that I am showing on screen, he has not even addressed that this stuff exists in the first place, which is extremely disconcerting. The worst part for me personally was just all the photos and videos that involve him actually touching these kids or like looking at them inappropriately.
We are here with a Latino version of the girl from Paramore.
How old is you anyway?
13.
You 13, okay.
I don't buy it. Come here, come here. Get over here. Give me a hug. Breastfeed. Take a sip, take a sip. Take a sip. So much milk. Actually, I'm sure there's more milk over there. Can you please breastfeed with Shauna, please? That would make
There's a ton of photos he released for meet and greet where he thought it was a good idea to pose sexually with every single kid at the meet and greet. Just absolutely inappropriate. On top of that, he kissed one of his 12-year-old fans on the lips at her request.
Left, okay? Ready? Alright. 3, 2... Okay.
Some people even had the audacity to say, well, she asked for it. She was a 12-year-old girl. Shane Dawson was in his 20s. I think he was older than me. You know, if I kissed a 12-year-old girl, there would be no leeway for me. I really don't understand why more people are not talking about this kind of thing. On top of that, he swapped gum with some 15-year-old kid.
Okay, so please explain what you want me to do.
I want him to chew that gum and then give it to me.
In your mouth?
Yeah.
Alright, let's do it.
Oh my god.
Yes! I'm going to jail!
It's already disturbing enough that Shane Dawson saw fit to record this content and put it out for the world to see him doing this behavior. But then it just gets more disturbing when you find out that there's content that he didn't even record. These are things that he might not have even known were being recorded. Videos of him in video chat rooms with kids in them. And I'm not talking about live streaming. I'm not saying like he was live on his channel and he was saying adult things. I would never blame somebody for that kind of thing. I'm talking about just like tiny chat, like Omegle, where you can see exactly who you're talking to, and it's only a few people at a time. There were tons of kids in there, and he would have sexual conversations.
I'm so sweaty right now. Oh my god, can you guys see my pants? Okay, good. No. I was like itching myself, and I'm not wearing any pants. And then I realized I was on camera. This is a bad idea. Anytime I do these tiny chats, I always say something or show something inappropriate.
By far the worst out of all of this, though, Shane Dawson had this Daily Booth page. And Daily Booth is now this defunct website. Basically, on Daily Booth, you post an image and then people can reply with their own images. So if you go through Shane's Daily Booth page, you see that a lot of his posts were pretty normal, but then some of them were explicitly sexual things he was asking for. He was asking his audience to do their best giving birth pose. He was asking them to do their best blowjob face. He was asking them to do their best porn star move. And these are children. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He was asking children to submit him these pictures. Granted, he didn't say kids, but he didn't put any sort of 18 plus warning on there. And on top of that, the reason I can say he was asking kids for these pictures is because he not only knows that his audience is young.
As a YouTuber, the only pussy that's getting thrown my way is 12. So I can't touch it.
Illegal.
Legally. Do you have fans who want to fuck you? Like, but young? Like, a lot of these young girls, like 12, like, oh, shove a cock in my mouth, like all this stuff. They'll, like, grab my butt, and I'll hear them, like, I touched his ass. Oh, I want him to fuck my pussy, or whatever.
He caters to a younger audience, or he did in that time period. This was an intentional thing that he was doing. It's simply abnormal behavior that needs to be addressed by Shane Dawson. On top of that, he would interact with famous kids in a really weird way. He would just make jokes about dating them, saying things like underage weirdness, and he would touch them weirdly, and just, he was the one taking pictures of this and uploading it himself. He had common targets like Fred, for example. He explains how he was under the impression that he was sending sexual text messages to Fred, a 14-year-old, and that he was planning to go over there so that they could have sex. And again, I'm positive that if he was called on this, he would say that this is a joke, but listen to how he presents the story.
It's like 5 years ago. I haven't even talked to him about this. It was like 5 years ago, and he followed me on Twitter, and he's like, oh, I saw your Fred is Dead video. I'm like, oh, cool, whatever. And then he goes, so do you want to like talk on AIM? I didn't have an AIM, but I said yes, and I made one. And then we started talking, and I was maybe 19, and he was probably like, honestly, like 15, I don't know. And he was just like, yeah, you live in LA? I'm like, yeah. He's like, where? And I was like, North Hollywood. He's like, oh, I'm here right now. I'm like at a hotel, and I'm like, oh. And he's like, yeah, we should like hang out. It was like 1 in the morning. I was like, oh. And then I was like, oh, isn't that kind of weird though? And he's like, no, it's cool. It's just my sister, and she's cool with anything. She's asleep. I was like, what's happening? So I told my mom, who was like watching Nancy Grace. I was like, Mom, I think Fred is trying to fuck me. And my mom's like, I'll drive. And I was like, yeah, okay, that YouTube Monty. So then I was just like setting up them hangout. And then I said something. I made like a really, really gross joke about like blowing him or something because I thought it was going there. Right. And then he blocked me. And blocked me on Twitter. Whoa. Blocked me on everything. Wow. Deleted every tweet he had sent me. And I was just like, I went too far. We never talked about it. And then I met him 3 years later and it was cool. And now it's like this weird thing where we're friends, but I want to be like, were you trying to fuck me? Yeah. Also, were you trying to catch a predator? Like, what was happening?
Yeah, what was going on?
I don't know. And then he came out, so I guess maybe.
He did, so maybe he was.
I don't know.
There is no setup, there's no punchline, there's no indication that he's not being serious. And in conjunction with all of this other stuff that he has done that is on camera, it's just incredibly disturbing. Another child that he was constantly inappropriate about was Rebecca Black when she was a kid. Listen to the things he would say about her, and he would prompt his friends into saying about her.
Who's Rebecca Black?
I want to suck Rebecca Black's
titties.
Real bad.
That's what I wanted my mom to say.
My most popular video is my Rebecca Black parody, and I've never met her. And you did.
She's amazing. You're missing a lot. Like, she's gorgeous and amazing.
Besides that, what does she got going for her?
Besides your breasts.
And he would also make jokes about dating her, etc. And then another person who couldn't seem to escape it was Leah Marie Johnson. And this one was just extra disturbing to me personally, because according to Shane, he's known Leah Marie Johnson ever since she was 6. and then he made jokes about ruining her.
My first acting thing ever was, before I was even a YouTuber, was like some YouTube video with the Fine Brothers. I was just an actor on Craigslist. And she was there and she was like 6 and she sat on my lap.
What?
Fucked her good. Kidding! I ruined her.
It's just ultimately very distressing stuff to see that this was so blatant and nobody did anything about this. It wasn't because it was okay. I legitimately don't think people realized what was happening. So that's Shane and his despicable behavior around children, which he's still taken no accountability for. And by the way, like I said, he constantly gets in trouble for these things. He had started catching flack a couple years ago when statements he made in a podcast were resurfacing, making the rounds again, about looking up child porn and calling a child sexy. And Shane Dawson's claim was that this was edited out of context to make him sound bad.
The podcast, I mean, there's so many clips that people are bringing up. So there's a clip that has been going around again. A few years ago is when it came out. And they cut out all the parts where I said, pedophilia is disgusting. And they put it together and it made it seem like I was, talking about how it's normal. So gross. I would never say that.
So I am going to play this clip in its entirety. It's a little long, but because he claims that it was edited to make him look bad, I literally have to play this full thing so that you can understand that he was lying. This is what he said.
What is Kim Kardashian? Is she half black?
No, she's Armenian.
No. Is she what Rebecca Black is? They look similar.
I don't think we ever asked
Rebecca Black has
what
made
she
a
is.
little less of a sex tape. She hasn't had sex with as many black guys. She did probably with that guy in that
She's
van.
15. Stop it.
She's growing up. She's almost 16.
not.
She told us, when I asked her, I said, how old are you? She said 15. I said, that's so young. She's like, I'm almost 16. As if when she turned 16, we could talk about dicks to her.
Yeah.
Probably not.
No.
Well, I have an UGG.
Oh, okay. Excuse
Now,
me.
this is an UGG that I just realized a few days ago. I was with Lisa and we ran into a child. I'm not going to say why or how, but we ran into a child.
Like in your, wait, hold on. In your
With my car, I hit
like,
the child.
Okay.
It was dying on the side of the road.
Okay,
And I
great.
said, I should probably ask what its name is.
Uh-huh.
No, but this child was probably 6 years old. And I was taking a picture of something. And the kid turns to me and goes, oh, are you Instagramming? And first of all, how does a 5-year-old, 6-year-old know what Instagram is? Which
Right.
is terrifying.
Mhm.
Second of all, I was embarrassed because, yes, I was. And it was a picture of my salad. So then,
that's the plantation salad.
Yes,
I
it was.
saw it. It looked amazing.
And the 6-year-old girl goes, oh, how many followers do you have? I mean, first of all, it was almost like one of those contests where it's like, how big is your dick? And this kid slapped her huge dick on the table and was like, a 6-year-old who goes, oh, I have 125,000.
No.
Her dick was almost as big as mine.
Really?
And I said, okay, little big dick, why do you have so many followers? And she goes, oh, I'm a cheerleader. And I'm like, oh, really? And she shows me her Instagrams, which are like, first of all, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but like, she's like sexy.
You're disgusting.
I know. Listen, we've talked about pedophilia
No, this
before.
is Shane. Like, do not say this, and like, I don't even want to talk about it. Like, you will get arrested. Like, he kind of can.
Listen,
he has this
allegedly-
justification for pedophilia,
Okay.
and it's so disturbing. And like, I just pretend that he doesn't.
Okay, wait,
and,
no,
like,
no. Let me explain. Let me
No.
explain.
Oh, God.
Here's my justification for pedophilia.
I can't.
Okay, first of all, let me just say, having sex with children or touching children or anything of that nature is terrible, and you
Sure.
should not do it.
But
But here's my thing. People have foot fetishes. People have fetishes about, everything. And there's websites on the internet where they can look at that weird, creepy shit and jerk off to it. Okay, fine. Everybody do your thing. So why is it when somebody looks at Google's like naked baby on Google and jerks off to it, they can get arrested? I don't understand that.
because there's a naked because somebody took a picture of a naked baby.
But
and and then by the way, they're not Googling naked baby. They're Googling like, I'm not going to say what they're Googling. I mean, I watch a lot of Law and Order.
But here's
so
the
like,
worst part of it. I actually went to Google and I'm like, I
Oh,
kind of
God.
want to see.
You're gonna
I don't
get
wanna-
arrested.
I know, but I didn't want to see child porn. But I just wanted to see like, okay, let me just pretend. Let me pretend like I'm a pedophile for a sec.
Okay, by the way, just for the record, police, I have nothing to do with this. I didn't know this. Like, you can literally get arrested for
I
saying
know.
this.
Listen, let me finish.
Sorry.
So I typed in naked baby. First of all, I don't understand why anybody would be turned on by that. But
That's the first good thing you said.
But they were sexy. I'm kidding. Okay, back to the Instagram. So I look at this little girl's pictures, and she had makeup on. She had her tongue out. She was doing like the peace sign. She was doing a backflip, and one of them she was in the shape of a pretzel, and she put #no filters, #pretzel.
I mean, like, I'm not making this up. Why are children...
Was she really 6 or was she like 9?
She was 6.
She must have been like 10.
No, I asked her. Her bio on Instagram is, I'm 6, bitch.
Stop it.
No, so why? Oh, first of all...
Is she like Honey Boo Boo? Is she fat?
No, she was like the skinny little sexy 6-year-old.
All right, can we please move on?
No, so that's my UGG. Why are children having Instagrams, and why do they almost have as many followers as I do?
That's your UGG. Mine is...
Okay, fine, move on. But I'm seriously...
I don't know. I don't have an answer.
I'm ugging out about it.
It's disturbing on so many... By the way, they're all your followers, probably. Like, they're all... That's who's following you.
Who, 6-year-olds?
Uh-huh.
No.
Maybe.
Oh my god. Hashtag yum.
I have never heard an adult man call a 6-year-old sexy before in my entire life. Like a skinny, sexy little 6-year-old. If I personally knew somebody who talked about children that way, I would not interact with them. I would not. Quite simply. I would never let somebody like that around my children. Never. Not for any amount of time, for any reason. Ever. If I had somebody in my life who acted the same way Shane Dawson did around children, publicly, my kids would never know about it. And I honestly really couldn't see myself associating with them in the first place. The next thing we need to talk about is Shane Dawson's collaboration with the Fine Brothers. Now, just so we're clear, I am not putting more blame on Shane Dawson than I am on the Fine Brothers. I am specifically talking about what all 3 of them did and how disgusting it was. So I briefly mentioned earlier, they had this show called Hey Millie, and it was with the puppets, etc. Look at some of the conversations that they made this puppet have with Shane Dawson.
You know what we could do, Millie?
What?
Motorbike!
What's motorbike? I don't know what porn is.
Oh.
So what is pornography?
Porn is a type of filmmaking.
Oh, it's a filmmaking! Yay!
No.
Like this! We're making porn together!
No, we're not
Everyone
making
come on
porn.
down and watch Ralphie the Grown Man make porn with an 8-year-old!
No.
Almost 9. Porn, porn, porn for little kids! Makes us grow up to be strong like...
So, Millie, you a fan of the D?
Are you talking about your big dick? What does dick mean?
What? No! I was talking about D like Deezy. Man, where did you learn how to talk like that?
From watching Selena Gomez.
Selena Gomez.
Yeah, and iCarly. She's so cool and attractive. I love the way her hair flows down her back and brushes over her tight ass. Oh, that shit's so hot. And you know her and her butch friend experiment. I mean, wouldn't you, Deezy? Oh, and her newly developed breast. They're speaking to me. They're saying, hey, Millie, do you want to suck on us? Ooh. I mean, don't you think she's sexy, Deezy? Hey, what does sexy mean?
Whoa! Jump pluff!
Deezy, did you just come?
What? No!
Wait, Deezy, follow-up question. What does coming mean? Can you explain it to me in graphic detail?
But by far, the worst thing of all was this clip right here, which I honestly can't believe multiple adults stood in a room and created this content and recorded it and then let it get on the internet.
Shane, hey, Shane? Well, is it wrong to touch yourself in the nether regions? Shane? Shane, can I ask you a question, Shane?
What?
Shane, will you fuck me? Shane, wait, follow-up question?
What?
What does fucking mean? Shane? Is fucking bad?
Why don't you touch yourself a little bit?
What do you mean, like my face?
Wait, you're not moving your lips.
Oh, like my face?
No, touch a little lower.
Like my underdeveloped breast?
Hey! Who the fuck is this guy, Millie? Millie! Who the fuck is this guy?
Why are you so angry?
I'm gonna fucking rape you, bitch! Turn the fuck around! Turn the fuck...
Wait,
hey,
Billy,
put the
Billy.
camera here!
Billy,
Ah!
hold on. Shane, hold on, Billy. Shane, what's rape?
He also had the puppet create like sexual parodies, basically, which in my opinion was very disturbing because he used a Willow Smith song. So at this point, he has said this about Willow Smith.
Oh, I'll whip your hair back and forth.
And then Yes, a song about an 8-year-old singing about cosmetic surgery. I think you guys might understand why I didn't put ads on this now, because again, if I did, first of all, I would be making money from this and that would make me feel like garbage. And then on top of that, I would have to censor so much of this stuff. And I feel like if I did that, you guys might not understand why I'm taking this so seriously. Now, the reason I'm bringing up this Fine Brothers thing on its own specifically is because it leads into my next point. A lot of people say, oh, well, you know, there's no victims involved in the situation. Well, first of all, besides the actual victims, like the 12-year-old girl that he kissed on the lips, whose statement I'll put up right here as she explains why asking for it is not a valid thing to say about a child, there are plenty of children who were exposed to Shane Dawson's content because he was marketing it towards children, and they wound up getting groomed, basically. Now, I'm not blaming Shane Dawson for anybody's assault or anything like that, but what I'm saying is the content that he was creating and marketing it towards children has the exact same effect as child grooming. That's the point, to put these kids in sexual situations and conversations. And speaking of abuse, what's most disturbing to me is that that was a plot line in Hey Millie's whole channel, was that this 8-year-old fictional puppet, was a victim of sexual abuse.
Whoa! That reminds me of the thing that my dad used to shove in my mouth when I was 3. Memories.
And then when you couple that with the fact that Shane Dawson himself has said that he makes content for victims of sexual abuse, he said it as like an offhand remark, but still.
My videos are about making people laugh. But also, like, in a serious note, I like to put in messages or things that I went through when I was a kid, like being self-conscious or dealing with abuse or dealing with, you know, overeating, all that stuff, and put those messages in a funny video so that kids actually watch and relate, and they don't feel like they're being taught, you know, like they actually get the message in a fun way.
Okay.
It's like an after-school special with dick jokes.
You start realizing that Millie was basically crafted to be Shane Dawson's viewer. Very young, just extremely exposed to sexual things because of Shane Dawson himself. She was obsessed with Shane, canonically, and because she loves Shane so much, she would do anything to spend more time with him. Kind of just like he asked the girl to twerk for him, and she would do that because she literally kept repeating, "Oh, I love you so much." Like, look at this video of him and his mother encouraging a fan to twerk, which is a huge abuse of a power dynamic.
Yeah. I love you too. Can you twerk for us? I know twerking is insane.
Oh, I love you too.
Oh, I love you too. Now shut up and twerk. Maybe she can't hear us. Hear it.
Okay, okay.
Twerk for us.
Oh,
here we go. She's moving front and center.
These are real children that Shane Dawson was asking to do sexual things. That's not a joke. You can't call that humor. Honestly, I feel like as somebody who does have this platform this size, it would be wildly irresponsible for me to entertain his narrative that what he did in that clip was a joke. It's about abuse of power. That's what this whole thing is. So I simply do not believe it's enough to say that Shane Dawson was making edgy content back a few years ago. I believe it needs to be called what it is. Shane Dawson was abusing his platform. That's what he was doing years ago, just completely unchecked, because nobody could do anything to stop him. And you know what the thing about it is too? People did try. This wasn't for lack of trying. People talked about the racism. People talked to him about the effects that his content was having on other people, and he didn't listen to it. I found a post from years ago from Neil Ciceriga talking about this exact thing. There's a video from Francesca Ramsey from years ago talking about how people mask racism as comedy. So again, this idea that Shane Dawson was a product of his time is simply false. Shane Dawson was doing extremely abnormal things at the time and was completely unchecked because for some reason people were just unwilling to confront him. At this point, I'm perfectly fine saying somebody should be deplatformed when they use their platform to affect children, when they use their platform to affect people that can't consent, when they use their platform to showcase imagery of them harassing beings that can't consent, pets, children, etc. And I say this because Shane Dawson himself said that he would be okay with losing everything.
I'm willing to lose everything. At this point, realizing how many people I've hurt or how many people I've inspired to say awful things or do anything awful, like to finally just own up to all of this and be accountable is worth losing everything to me.
I think at the very least, he needs to take a step back and admit what he was using his platform for in the first place. The last part I want to talk about are the complicit adults in the situation, because to me, the fact that one individual is doing things that are just this gross and sick, unfortunately, is not ultimately surprising. But the fact that he got away with it because nobody in his life at any point, on camera anyway, would stop him is disgusting. His girlfriend Lisa is absolutely complicit.
It's natural. Is there anybody around? No?
It's natural for a girl at your age.
Yeah. So we want to talk to you. We want to explain what sex is. We did get really quiet.
Oh, where's the other peep? We should probably explain.
We'll use peeps. Okay, well, one peep and then we'll use you.
Oh.
Okay, so I'll just pretend like that's, I mean, that works.
Lucy, this happens.
See, oh.
And then you're so happy when you're an adult. I can't believe I'm endorsing this.
She tried to release a statement on Twitter where she basically parroted the same thing that Shane Dawson said. In other words, she put the blame of that situation on consent and claims that what she did with her cousin Lucy, or Shane's cousin Lucy, was consensual. But again, children can't consent. We're not talking about 18-year-olds, 16, 17-year-olds. She said she was 12. A 12-year-old can't consent to what Shane Dawson was asking of them. Another huge person who's complicit in enabling Shane Dawson's behavior was absolutely his mother. And I'm not saying this like, to talk about his mom or to bring his mom into it. I'm saying this because his mom was on camera. She was just another person in his vlogs. And you can hear, she was encouraging that girl to twerk along with him. When he said he wanted her to undress, she just literally gave him a slap on the wrist.
Yeah! Good girl!
Yeah, now tell her to show herself.
Stop it, Shane Lee.
She would participate in the racist skits that he would write with him, and I just simply don't understand how you could think that's a good idea. So again, this idea that Shane Dawson was in any way normal, or the things that he was doing was normal, is a false narrative perpetuated by him and the adults who are enabling him and complicit in normalizing that behavior. What was normal for that time period, just so we can all be on the same page, was political incorrectness targeted towards adults. Okay? Absolutely was not normal to make racist and sexual content targeted towards children. Absolutely was not the norm. Anybody who says anything otherwise either doesn't realize the extent of what Shane was doing, which I think a lot of his fans didn't, or they're making false equivalences. Because South Park would cross lines that I was afraid to cross in this video, which isn't even monetized. And yet, South Park has nothing to do with running a blog where they're asking actual children to send them sexual images of themselves. So honestly, there is no it was a different time, because as far as I'm concerned, this stuff doesn't have an expiration date. And if we're dealing with a person who hasn't even admitted that he's done these kinds of things, absolutely, I do not have any room in my thinking process for the possibility that this person has changed. No, not at all. Not when the behavior has gone unaddressed and this person has not admitted to it. Part 1, pretty cool. I'm super into that. I actually had fun editing that. Part 2 was a nightmare. It was a nightmare for me to record all of that stuff and to put it together. But I felt like if nobody did it and I just continued to be the next person who saw all this stuff and didn't do anything about it, I would start feeling complicit, and that's not something I want. So now we're just on to part 3, which thankfully is a lot lighter, because I know it was a lot. Part 3, we're just going to examine the difference between past Shane and how he gets away with being current Shane. A lot of people who think they're defending Shane Dawson are defending Shane Dawson's persona. They are literally defending the idea of Shane Dawson, which is the idea of a very compassionate, sweet, 30-year-old who just sees the good in everybody, who will always stand up for his friends, etc. I'm sorry, but that is not what Shane Dawson does. There's no evidence that he's that kind of person that he's chosen to put forward, and I can only go off of what I've actually seen, which are the things I presented in this video. Part of the reason Shane's audience is so connected to him is because he actually emulates his persona off of his audience members. See, every YouTuber to some extent has a persona, even the ones who will tell you that they don't. It's pretty much unconscious behavior to lean into repeated mannerisms when you're sitting in front of a camera, because you're not talking to anybody, you know? But for the most part, that's actually a very entertaining thing. It's fun to see people's personas, like Jenna Marbles being a 32-year-old lady. That's her thing, you know what I mean?
Welcome back to being a 32-year-old lady. Sadly realistic portrait of what a 30-year-old lady's life is like. Guys, I'm Jenna, I'm 30.
I believe that Jenna Marbles is being herself. She's just being a YouTube version of herself, which is very entertaining. God, I hope I'm being myself. For the most part, I've never seen having a persona as being like this, I guess, devious, dark thing. But in Shane Dawson's case, it is very clear that this persona is not him. All you have to do is compare his behavior up before he's changed over into that new wholesome mentality with the things that he tries to convince us that he is now, and then you'll start to see why he has to spend so much time reminding us how good of a person he is, and he has to spend so much time verbalizing that he only ever wants to say nice things about people, because he's still literally getting his story straight. That's why he acts poor, even though he's just literally not. It's why he uses like the Stan Twitter lingo, even though he's a fully grown adult. It's because he is trying his hardest to relate to, I wouldn't even say his audience, which is mostly, you know, teenage girls. He's like relating to what he thinks a teenage girl is. This very internet version of a teenage girl is what he emulates online. And it's eerie to watch, especially when things start slipping through the cracks. I think so many people forgot that as recently as 2018, Shane Dawson got caught up in weird things involving minors and sexualization. Now again, this fault goes 100% on Tana Mojo, who thought it would be a fun idea to dress up as kid influencer JoJo Siwa, but this kind of version. And Shane Dawson retweeted that. And then when he got called on it, he said he didn't see anything wrong with it and he thought it was funny. That doesn't line up with empath, I understand people's feelings, I want to help, I'm a good person, Shane. I thought a grown-up adult version of this living, breathing child was funny. That is the old Shane that I just showed you in those clips. Another thing I want to talk about is his documentaries. Basically, because he's no longer creating pedophile content or racist content or bestiality content, everyone just spends so much time telling him how good his stuff is now. And it's like, better than bestiality and pedophilia? Wow. That honestly explains how the bar for his content has always been so low. And yet people hype it up so much because of where he started. Every single documentary he's made has been problematic and wrong in some way or another. The one he made with Eugenia Cooney, he was absolutely exploiting her eating disorder for clicks, views, and sensationalism. Especially when you hear how he talks about Eugenia Cooney outside of that.
Well, you don't know struggle till you've taken a picture standing next to Eugenia fucking Cooney, bitch.
I don't know what that is or who that is.
Eugenia Cooney makes dolls? I'm fucking
He mishandled an abuse situation in the Jake Paul series, and not only that, but widely contributed to misinformation and sensationalization of actual medical disorders. He had a series about Bobby Burns, which was pure manipulation, just designed to get the audience to wind up hating Bobby Burns, which is exactly what wound up happening to Bobby. It was an entire series based off of the idea of showing how good of a person he was to somebody who made a critical video of him. A critical video, might I add, that is nowhere near as critical as people have been of him lately. His first series with Jeffree Star helped to normalize racism on a massive scale, thanks to his apology, or rather, him being an apologist for Jeffree Star's racism. His second series with Jeffree Star was false advertising, but I already talked about that in my previous video. Like, the more you look at Shane Dawson's content, the more you realize whether his intentions are there or not, every single time the impact is very clear and it winds up getting swept under the rug. Because I think most people are conscious of most of the things I've said in this video. I think most people know what he did with Eugenia Cooney. I think most people know what he did with the whole sociopath angle he took in the Jake Paul series. And to some extent, I think most people know about his weird jokes about kids. But I'm not blaming them because people don't put it all together. When you realize the sudden change and he always has to be nice and just how often he has to tell you what kind of person he is, when you see how his entire platform is built up off of these legitimately disgusting things, and now he's trying to just spread like a thin layer of wholesomeness over top of it, that is why he keeps getting into trouble so often. The man himself has admitted that every single time he's ever apologized up until this last one, allegedly, he was doing it out of a place of fear and not even genuine change.
Yes, I apologize for a lot of them, but I'm 31, almost 32. Those apologies suck. I don't know who that person is anymore. Every apology video I've ever made has been from fear.
And then, based off of how he was downplaying his behavior around children in his latest apology video, you can clearly see that that one is not genuine either.
I swear on my life, I am not somebody who would ever talk about a child, like in seriousness. I would never talk about a child in any way that was inappropriate. That is disgusting. That is gross. It is not something I would ever do. It is something I did for shock value or because I thought it was funny or like, oh my God, my child molester character or whatever. It's all gross. And I promise that is not real. That is not me. Have I done sketches where kids were saying crazy things? Yes. Do I regret it? Yes.
So at this point, I don't know what kind of person Shane Dawson is, okay? I don't know if he's done anything to children. Again, I am not trying to imply that he has. As far as I'm concerned, I don't personally believe he's harmed children in that kind of way. However, he was making content that caters to pedophiles by repeatedly exhibiting pedophilic behavior. That's not a question. That's something that he did. He repeatedly used these children as sexual props in his content. He repeatedly brought these children into sexual conversations. That's pedophile behavior regardless of whether you're a child rapist, because again, I'm not saying those are the same thing. However, he's absolutely exhibited pedophilic behavior, and it's ridiculous that in the past he's claimed that we're ridiculous for pointing it out in the first place. I just feel like for so long I've watched Shane Dawson gaslight everybody on the platform, and it's not okay. It's not okay. I feel like even if this video doesn't go over well, I believe in my ability to show you why I am saying this. So that was my video about Shane Dawson. I promise you I am never doing a video like this again. I loved it, by the way. As I'm sure you can tell, I really did put everything into it because I made some really serious claims, so I had to show some really serious imagery, which I hate, and I'm sorry. But long story short, I can in no way support Shane Dawson. I honestly can't even support people supporting Shane Dawson. Just the conclusions that I've come to based off of the things that I found while I was creating this video shows me a very disturbing person that I want nothing to do with. I want him nowhere near my children, and honestly, I just don't want to have anything to do with him ever again. I made this video, I said everything I wanted to say, but something is not right with Shane Dawson and Shane Dawson's content. Clearly, I would venture to say objectively, there is something wrong with Shane Dawson's content and the things that he's doing on this platform. And now that I've said what I have to say about this, I don't want anything to do with it. So my next video is just going to be a cute little video about Tati Westbrook, because she's not, you know, racist. She doesn't mess with kids. She doesn't sexually assault dogs, you know? Just the things that you love in most people. But as you could tell, it was just a very serious topic, so I really appreciate you guys watching it. I wish there was a happy ending, but not everything in life has a happy ending, apparently, because he still has a platform. And I can't help but feel like no matter how many views this video gets, I haven't done anything. But I still did what I could, so honestly, who cares?